Those of you who want to play,
are we allowed to borrow these weapons?
Yes, I think so. I don't know. I control nothing. I'm going to go meet these fields. So, if you would like to play, we have character cards for you.
Yes, there are several different classes. For instance, there is the fighter class. Classes are out of game by just for experience expenditure and stat allotment. They are not actually in-game thing. In-game, if you were a fighter class, you might be a warrior, or you might be a guard, or you might be a knight, aspiring to be a knight, whatever. However, out of game, it's called a fighter. This person who specializes in hitting things or throwing arrows at things very hard. Basically.
We then have scholars, which would be those of us who cast spells for a living,
yes,
or for surviving, depending on your point of view. We have two types. We have both Earth, which is both healing and necromancy, though necromancy is a no-no. You will get attacked by the law. Surely none of us have ever done this.
Spells are represented by birdseed packets. You say an incantation, and you throw the packet in. That's it. For instance, with Mystic Force I ping you. And now your right foot is stuck to the ground. Yes. Until such time as we break line of sight for about 10 seconds. Which is to say, not I turn away from you, but I am blocked from you by ability.
Or you killed me.
Or I die.
Kill me suddenly free. It's amazing how this works.
So those are spellcasters.
And Celestial Caster is the other type. That would be I set you on fire, I throw ice, I throw lightning, I throw
standard wizard.
damage.
Whereas Earthcasters are more like your
no, stone bolts, but yes, same idea. Except of course, you only hit it if you hit it. So dodge the little packets if someone is throwing them at you. Speaking of dodges, we have rogues.
Yes.
Okay, getting a little lost here. We have rogues. Rogues do more damage from behind, so if you get behind someone and hit them, you'll actually do more damage than from in front of them.
So in front I might be going too normal, and then I get behind her and I go more normal.
And speaking of the normals,
and also
keep an eye. Speaking of etc., you have hit points in this world, and yes, they are on here. You have both hit points and armor points. You are wearing armor. You get armor points. It's amazing.
As you might guess, fighters have more hit points than scholars. Scholars are squishy, they go down.
Oh yes. I had about 3 hit points. And then we have the hybrid classes. So we have, I don't know if they're in here, but we have adepts, which are spellcasting rogues. We have templars, which are fighting spellcasters, and we have scouts, which are roguish fighters.
Scouts are in here?
Scouts are in here?
Scouts are in here.
Awesome. So,
is Adept in there? Because that would be a lot of fun.
I have no idea.
Yes, Adept is in here.
Adept is in here. Excellent, sir. Here is your character card. We did not expect you all to show up wearing convenient armor. Your armor points on the thing are your actual armor points.
Ordinarily in the game, you would have to represent all of your armor points with actual physical armor.
Precisely. I think right now I've got about 4 armor because I'm not wearing my greaves or my chainmail or my chainmail.
You're just wearing
more different
leather braces.
Yep. And I am fully costumed. And yes, this counts for an entire 2 points because it's got actual steel.
Yes.
2 whole armor points. It doubles my health. Because scholar. So, what would you like to play?
I'll play a rogue.
Alrighty.
Play a fighter.
What
do you want to be?
You're first.
Well, but I want to be something different than you, and I want you to give me.
What do you want to do?
Adept, please.
I think Danny
I
has
got this.
I want to be a Earth
Action points are well, you have more health than mine.
Which one?
Keelstein / totally not a necromancer.
Earth Scholar?
Earth Scholar.
I will be a rogue.
Alrighty.
Huh.
Okay. Right there.
That makes
I
sense.
know why that one's crossed out. Here, this one's
Rogue.
Go.
See? Okay. I
Yes.
do better now.
1 second. I will.
Alright.
I feel like this is going to be
12.
probably one of the best.
I'm trying to get behind the lights.
What you have on that character sheet, you need weapons. And you may also need spell packets.
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Here you go.
Armor
That's why I didn't want to be a wizard, because it's always so complicated.
Armor smith means that if I hit you and I don't get hit,
I got the good one.
armor, you can fix your own armor.
Oh wow, that's pretty impressive.
For one, it takes 1 minute, but you can fix your armor. If, let's say someone knocks me out, so I am unconscious, dying on the ground, I can be picked up, which can be done with potions or healing or whatever. Someone brings me back to, if not life, at least to usefulness. My armor can be repaired in 1 minute, right back up to full.
Wow, that's
So,
pretty impressive.
oh yes. So Armor Smith is your friend.
Also, it says proficiency +1.
Yes. So most people wandering around will be swinging to normal with a standard sword, which you have. You, Mr. Fighter, due to all of your experience in fighting and your time in the guard, blah blah blah, are actually hitting 3 normal. You can kill me in 1 shot.
Oh god.
Except that I have armor.
It says 2 weapons. That means I get 2 weapons, or I can have 2 one-handed weapons.
2 one-handed weapons.
It says one-handed edge and shield.
One-handed edge and shield.
You basically pick which one.
It says one-handed edge only.
One-handed edge.
What's a ledger main?
Electrodomain is anti-trap / it's totally not picking locks and breaking and entering. Never is it breaking and entering. That is a vicious lie perpetuated by those who are just rude about rogues, generally. Yeah.
So what do I need to grab? I got a one-handed edge.
What does it say?
One-handed edge.
Yeah, go grab a...
Does the color matter?
There will be some
Anything red? Red is actually flawed.
Oh, okay. So they probably don't
So,
work.
anything other than red. Anything but red. You just wondering what I should actually symbolizing flaws. So if I am being an owl bear and I have those, you can't disarm those. Because they're part of my flesh.
Okay, HP is hit points and AP armor points.
So you can repair armor points, you can't fix hit points. For that, you won't talk to the lady who chose to be at our scope.
Yay!
If you guys die, you have to be nice to me.
Here, I just
Yes.
I won't hit you.
With healing due to Turkishness is totally acceptable.
Hey, I'm just the video. I'm just recording.
Yeah, here.
Yay! I get buff spells.
Join us.
We got 3 rogues, 2 fighters, brawler, and the seems pretty well. Yeah, seems pretty good. Yeah, kind of roguish.
Magic armor, read right, shield, don't worry about those decimal elements. Right now, healing arts, so if someone falls down,
Good intro.
I gave them character cards. Sweet. Stuff. This is your issue, sir. Off you go.
How does armor point? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't know where you went so
So I just was trying to get Toad. So I'm not Toad. So things are good. Alright guys. Sorry that I was late.
basically just tap on the keyboards here and there. Looks like the game areas are still pretty tight.
I have some questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, hello. Sorry, I was making sure I'm not Toad.
We've got character cards like him now.
Cool.
I'm explaining spells.
You explained the classes and all the choices and all that? Sweet, thank you
I
guys.
didn't explain the fact that you can be different races at some other time.
So another time, yeah. So when you do come to an actual game, we've got about 15 different races to choose from. Some of your typical, fantasy ones. We also have some cool, fun ones like Dryad. There's also a race of cat people. We also got a race called Wilderkin, which is basically like any animal humanoid crossover you can think of in our game. We've got like 7 or 8 of them. Really weird. I've never seen a chapter that has so many animal Wilderkins, but we do. Let's see what else. What's up? Mystic Widows, yes we do, absolutely. Great craftsmen, a lot of entertainers. Gypsies, elves, dwarves, barbarians, dark elves, stone elves, regular elves. So a lot to choose from. And if you guys check out our website online, there's a free PDF download of the rulebook, so you can have that and check that out and everything. Look it up. Yes, yeah. So after we're done, feel free to take one if you guys haven't already. I think we talked to pretty much most of you. You do. Did anyone go over like safety and hold and all that? Not yet? Okay. So one of the main important rules in our game is the hold rule. Anytime you hear someone yell hold, it means freeze. Stop what you're doing and freeze, and typically you'll see people take a knee like she's doing there to demonstrate. We call a hold for two major reasons within our game. So the first hold we call is a rules issue. A marshal might call a hold to explain something. For example, I might want to describe the setting. We are not in a hotel, we are in a grand tavern room, and there's torches on the walls, blah, blah, blah. So I might call a hold to give a description. I might call a hold to describe what you see as far as the monsters. So we try to rep everything we can with masks, makeup, tabards, costuming when we can. However, if we're doing something like, you see an 8-legged giant spider, that might be kind of hard to do because we've got 4 limbs, not 8. So the NPC might be dressed in a black tabard and all black face. Maybe they got like a bunch of eyes drawn on their face. We'll try to do the best we can, but in the event people are confused, it might be generic green-skinned NPC number 3. And we might say, what is that? Is it a goblin, an orc, troll? I mean, there's so many green things out there. So, lizard man. So we might try to clarify that to the players as well. Rules is the second reason why we call a hold. You get hit with blah, 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 and you're like, I don't know what that does. So, you can call a hold. If it's a large-scale battle and there's a lot of people on the battlefield, last event we had like 70 people, a little less than 70 people at our last event. We try not to get into too many holds when it's that large scale, because one rules question between me and you stops everybody's actions. Sorry. And so we try not to do that. Instead, if it's a large-scale thing, we tend to be like, you know, what does that do? By the way, guys, if you see anyone take their hand and go like this with that, that means they're out of game. Usually, again, to ask a question. What was that spell you just hit me with? I didn't hear you. To ask a quick clarifying question, so that is better than calling a whole game-wide hold. Okay. For intents and purposes of today, if you don't know something, feel free to call a hold and stop all action today. That's absolutely fine for today. So feel free to call a hold if something happens you don't know. In some instances, I will be a character to interact with, and when I wear a white headband, anyone wearing a white headband is considered out of game. This represents you don't see me, I'm not in the room for whatever reason. Maybe I have an injury and I'm just walking around to get a drink. Maybe I'm the marshal and I'm about to say something crazy that's about to happen. So just act like you don't see the person with the white headband, because you don't. Yeah. What else? A little louder.
The other reason for calling a hold, if you get injured in the real world, for the love of everything, call a hold. Sprained ankles do happen. It's no more dangerous than, say, softball. But seriously, if you get injured, if your glasses get knocked off, call a hold.
Right.
Please.
Yeah. And that was the other one, so thank you. So safety, rules question, or a marshal will explain something. That are the three. So hold is the most important rule. When you do come to an actual event, we also don't allow alcohol or drugs or even marijuana at our event, because it's a Girl Scout camp. We also don't allow cigarette smoking. So if you're a smoker, you actually have to go to the end of the property. Just throwing it out there. So for today, we are going to convert this area after I'm done giving the out-of-game talk and spiel about it. Then we're going to convert this area to our tavern. You guys all have character cards now? Yes? Yes. Who are the spellcasters here? Any spellcasters? 2 of them. You guys, do you understand how the spells work in the game?
Yes, although I do have a question.
Sure.
And it doesn't say whether or not I have access. Do I have
Yeah, the way we designed that one is just, you've got the waylay, but it wasn't enough build points to create that.
Does that count for a waylay?
That does not. So if you want, you might have to grab a different weapon for that. Who else? Were you the other one? Okay, and ooh, check you out.
Relatively aware of what's happening.
All right, cool. So you know the spells you have and everything? We have to give you packets then.
I have these spells.
Sorry?
I don't know what they do.
Oh, okay. I do not.
I can
Like
cure
zilch. She could just do the fingers. We got a bunch in that bag right there she could use.
Can I get all of these right now, or did I get something to get left?
Alright, so you have 4, 4, 3, 2. So that means that you have 4.
Oh, sweet, cool. All right, so let me explain. You understand the way you have to take that. You can get behind me.
Sounds like a
Yeah, so you hit us with this on a shoulder blade. If you can get behind us and just say, zero whaler is the call. Zero whaler. Hit us right on the shoulder.
And then 3 for the kills.
It's an instant knockout. It reduces us. Basically, if I have, let's say, 10 body, 10 hit points, and you hit me with 0 whaler, I'm still at 10. I'm just unconscious after 10 minutes. So it's an automatic knockout.
This is something you have to
and then you can do whatever you want. If you want to cure them up,
basically you can spend experience points over time.
That's fine.
Is the weight loss like a weapon, or can you really with the sack?
Sap is fine if you have it. I don't think
You have actually the sheep
there's a certain rule for it. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, later on.
Yeah, let me explain that. So the way, no, just you guys. All right, so the way armor points and health points, or hit points, whatever you want to call them, body points on your cards work, armor disappears first. So even though you have the total in your mind, like you're like 7 plus 12 is worth 19 total, just know that your armor will come off first, so they can beat you when the battle's over. Do any of the fighters here have armor smith skill? Yes. You do. Okay, so the way armor smith skill works is very valuable in a setting like this. So after the fight's over, who needs a refit? They come over to you, they take a knee, and you pretend to fix their armor for 60 seconds. 60 seconds goes back to full armor. So it's, you know, it's a good way to get your points back up in case there's something next coming after.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Basically, you keep on saying something about like that. What does that mean? Like,
I'm not sure what you mean.
it's like I can't remember what it was called, but you have to say something.
Waylay?
No.
You mean, oh, you mean what do you say when you swing?
Yeah.
Okay, great question. So when you swing your weapon, all of you right now, I believe, call 2 normal. The fighters might have a proficiency +1.
Yeah.
If you're a fighter and proficiency +1, that card means you swing 3 normal. It's like you've been training a little bit and you're getting a little better in your skills. You swing a little harder. You know some more vital locations to hit. So you'll be swinging 3 normal. For those of you who don't have a proficiency +1 on your card, you're swinging 2 normal today. The reason why we say 2 normal, 2 is the amount of damage, and normal is called a carrier. There are different effects in our game. Some creatures might be needed to be hit by like magic weapons. You're calling 2 normal. If you walk up to me, I'm playing like a ghost lord, scary, and you walk up and hit 2 normal, I'm going to say no effect because those particular creatures are hit by magic only. You won't see anything like that today. I'm just letting you know the reason why we say 2 normal when we swing our weapons. There are other effects like silver. You might want to swing 2 silver. If you have a silver sword, you can fight a werewolf. You know, things like that. Some people have flame weapons in the game, magical flame weapons. You can run around 2 flame, 2 flame, 2 flame, things like that. So for, like I said, for today, everyone 2 normal, 3 normal. That's really all you need to know with that. Gentlemen, just watch the thrusting tips. If you're kind of lounging around, hanging out, just be careful. Do not leave them on the ground because you will force the core right through the tips. So please be careful. You want to keep it safe for players. That is perfect for that, yes. Let's see what else. Okay, did you clarify the spells and everything?
I think so.
You think so? Okay. Are you Earth and Healing or Celestial? You're Earth and Healing. Okay, so you know your spells, what you can do today? I just want to make sure you're good before.
Do I have to memorize this?
No, not at all. I just want you to understand how they work.
Yes, I have these.
Okay, sweet, good. All right, guys. So a couple things. Yes, you can block arrows and you can block weapons. You cannot block spells. If you get hit with a packet thrown by one of our NPCs and it's a spell, even if you have a shield, you take the magic effect like hits and promises.
Same thing if it hits your sword, I presume.
Say it.
Same thing if it hits your sword.
Correct, yeah. And even if like you have like a cloak or something dangling in the breeze and it catches that, you get hit with. Yeah, I'm aiming for his cloak.
And only shields can block archery, correct?
That is correct. Actually, you could actually bat them out too with the sword. You could bat out an arrow packet, yeah. And it's happened plenty of times. Sometimes they come, you know, we're launching them in the air, and you're like, oh, look at this one, ding! You know, it totally happens, yeah. So you can bat the arrows out. What else do I need to cover? So just know your total points. Like right now, it's always a good thing to be like, I'm worth this, and just kind of keep that number in your head. When the combat does start, it's not going to be too crazy right now because it's a small group. But at a larger event where there's 70 people, you might be hearing like, you know, flame bolt, 3 normal, 6 this, and sometimes it gets overwhelming if there's too much going on. So always just know your total points before you need to go down. Now, in the event you do go down.
So if you get 0?
Correct. Okay. Correct. Good question. So there's something in our game called 0 and -1. Let me tell you the difference. If you get your armor points taken down and then you get your body points taken down and you are at 0, you are not bleeding to death, you're still stabilized, you're just going to be down for about 10 minutes. If you're at 0 for 10 minutes, you can pop back up at 1 point after those 10 minutes. If you get taken past 0 into the negatives, we only go to -1. It doesn't matter if you're really like -8, -9, it doesn't matter. -1 is just the negatives. The reason why is because once you're at -1, you then have 1 minute to receive healing or a first aid ability. You have first aid on your card, I know that. Who's the other caster among us? That's you? Okay. Oh, you do, and first aid. Awesome, you're good to go. So these 2 people can first aid. What that means is they both have healing spells. Are you Celestial or what did you pick to cast?
I picked 2 Earth and Sorcerer. So it said it had Read Magic and Healing.
Yeah, but that's still, you still have to pick like which school you want to have these two come from. I just gave you that ability in case you find scrolls, you can cast on scrolls. So I just made it my generic everything card.
No, that's fine. I just, I'll take it myself. I'm probably going to
Okay, cool. So these two guys here, they have an ability called First Aid. What that means is if you are at -1 and bleeding out, and they get to you within that magic 60-second window, that 1 minute before you bleed to death, they can come over and say, applying First Aid. That stops your count from, as you're counting to 60 to your death. That actually freezes your count right there. And if they spend 60 seconds doing the First Aid, that will stabilize you and pull you out of the inference and leave you at 0. So now you're stabilized and you're okay. And then from there, 10 more minutes to be up to 1. Or they can simply walk over and hit you with a curing spell and get you up real quick. In the middle of a combat, if you go down in the middle of a combat and they're like, we need him up now. And they, boom, they might pop a Cure Light Wounds on you and get you right back. Now, right? Which is not the full body, that'll put you up to 1 if it's a Cure Light Wounds. Cure Wounds is 5. And they'll tell you, and guys, don't feel like, oh my god, the rules are overwhelming. Today is all about just like checking it out, learning the game. So if at any point you are confused about anything, a curing spell, how much does it do? Maybe the healers cast you and they don't even know it, that's fine. Call a hold and ask, that's what today is for, right? So please don't be shy about asking for help. Call a hold and we'll help you guys out. Everyone here is very patient, very cool people that came out today, so you know, it's gonna be a good time. You can in the game, but not today, right? Yeah.
There's a lot of like you have to trust everybody that they're taking care of themselves and being honest about it.
That is correct. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. So our game is on the honor system. So when you're there, you know, you'll be fighting NPCs that you don't know how many body points they have. If you're fighting an orc, you're like, I don't know how much an orc does. I'm just going to beat him until he goes down, right? It's an honor system. The NPC will know how much he's worth, and he or she will go down when he's supposed to go down. As players, same thing. It's your responsibility to know how much you're worth and take your hits. If you get hit, we do this thing in the game. 2 things we do when we get hit in our game. We either go, ow, role play the hit. You hit me in my bare arm with ow. Or you hit me, or they might say, got it. Got it. In a large-scale battle, you'll probably hear more got it than ows. So just keep that in mind. So if you guys get hit, feel free to role-play the hit. It's also a nice gesture to let the NPC know that they scored a successful hit. Same thing, ow or got it. So just keep that in your mind.
If you get hit in your armor, what happens?
You still take the damage, because in our game you have armor points and body points.
Okay.
So even though you get hit in the armor still takes points off of it. But as I was explaining to people with the Armor Smith skill, when the battle's over, you can refit that armor. Even if it breaches to 0, it can be refit back up to its maximum points. So the armor's not gone.
So you do your armor points first, and then you do your health points.
Correct, correct. The only variation of this is that in our game there are necromantic spells, and the necromantic spells, if you get hit with, it bypasses armor and goes to body. So if you hear I call upon Chaos 2, and that hits you, that goes right past your armor and it hits your body. Different from like the wizard or celestial side of things, where if they throw like flame bolts and lightning bolts, that will come off your armor first. So if you hear the necromancy chaos thing, they'll also say something like, I call upon Chaos to cause wounds, 5 body. And the NPCs will let you know right at the end of the verbal, I call upon Chaos to cause wounds, 5 body. And so you know what you took. For today's purposes, the 2 spellcasters, you guys, don't worry about the incants. Don't worry about saying the long names of the verbals today. Just say the name of the spell. So for example, if you want to throw a disarm, just say disarm and throw the spell. You don't have to say, I summon a force to disarm your longsword. Don't worry about saying that today. Just say disarm and go with it, okay? We're trying to keep it watered down easy so you guys get a feel for the game and have some fun. Cool. Okay?
Say disarm, go drop roll.
Just 1. Okay?
You can only cause damage with weapons, right? You can't punch people in the face.
Correct. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, there is no physical contact in this game. Sorry, I should have said that from the beginning. No physical contact at all. In fact, if you're in any situation where you're like this close, we call that charging in our game, because that is a really uncomfortable, awkward situation. I can't even, like, we can't fight safely, right? So the marshal will say that and say, you know, that's close to charging, guys, back up, something like that. So we always try to stay within weapons reach of each other. So like, yeah, that's a little more comfortable. We can fight now, block, and then
like no heads, no
areas. Thank you. Yes, locations. No groin, no head, no neck, no hands. Okay. If you do take a weapon shot there, let the person know. Neck, head. I mean, hopefully no one does that. But I'll tell you right now, as new players, sometimes your adrenaline gets up, especially when it's your first time, and you guys might be like, oh my god, it's a skeleton! Ah, bang! You smack the kid right across the face and just wail on him, right? It totally happens, and it might happen. Try not to let it happen.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
Right. So you know, we try not to. We try to play safe. So remember, neck down. I shouldn't say neck. I should say below neck and down, and not groin and not hands. The reason why we don't do hands is because we don't want people trying to out of game disarm you by nailing on your knuckles till you drop the weapon. That is not what this game is about. This is not a game about force. This is not a game about power. It's just tap the person and they take a hit. It's a fantasy role-playing game. So
if you do end up knocking it out of their hands, still don't have a weapon.
Correct, but we don't try to. Right. I mean, if it accidentally happens, it accidentally happens. If you want to be a gentleman about it, give them a second to pick it up. If it happened on accident because you swung a little too hard or hit the knuckle in a weird way, you realize that. The only time they should be dropping weapons is with a disarm spell or shatter. Those are fun too.
So if you do actually get hit in the head, it doesn't count.
With a weapon, doesn't count. Correct. A spell packet will. All right, spell packet will. Again, same thing. Don't aim for people's heads. Don't try to hit me in the eye. But if it does, we will still take it and just say, hey, watch your throw.
And it still counts. Really?
Yeah. Just not arrows. All right. Let's see. I believe I'm done. Are there any other questions here? Yes.
So if you waylay someone and they're down for the 10 minutes, do you do any damage to them? Do they wake up?
No. Yeah. You can waylay them and then kill and blow them. By the way, counted actions, real quick, the probably only one I think you're going to hear today, two actually. Search, so you take something down, I search you, and they'll give you the money, but a counted action is something like running them through and giving them the killing blow. So let's say you sneak up behind and knock them out and they're at 0. Now you're like, I just want to kill this guy, I don't want him sleeping. Put your weapon on the torso and say, killing blow 1, killing blow 2, killing blow 3, and that represents you just like running them through and taking care of them through their vitals.
You gotta count it. Killing blow 1, killing blow 2, killing blow 3.
You got it, correct. Okay?
And once they're dead, are they at -1 or they're
no, if
out?
you run them through, they are beyond -1. Now they need a life spell. So the one thing I was explaining before, which I don't think we're going to get to today, but in the event it happens, so the -1 thing, like I said, you guys can do the first aid and get them stabilized, or you can hit them with Cure Potion and get them up, Cure Spell. If they go past that 60 seconds of being unconscious and bleeding out, they are now dead. And when you are dead, you have 5 minutes to receive a life spell. If you don't receive a life spell within those 5 minutes, the spirit leaves the body, and that body disappears. And it's kind of like go respawn at the Healer's Guild circle. So that's how we do respawn in our game. You're allowed 2 free deaths. The 3rd time you die, you have a 10% chance of dying permanently in the game. 4th, 20, 5th, 30%, and so on. So every time you die, there's an added 10% of dying permanently, so your character is gone from the realms. Okay? So there is a threat in the game. It's, you know, like I said, you do get 2 free, but there is a threat. You do stupid things, it will catch up to you eventually. So try to be smart.
So, you're up until you get 0, 0, and then you're down.
Right.
Unless you have -1, you're down. Okay. So once you have like +1, then you can stand up and
correct, right. Because you can be at 0 and still be okay, you're stabilized, but you're still unconscious at 0. So right, so until you hit that 1, that's when you're up.
You don't do any like, I lost my arm, I only have this one.
We actually don't do hit locations in our game, but there are spells in our game that will do that. So there's a fighter ability called Stun Limb. So if you get hit with a stun limb, it's like kind of mangled and messed up. There's also a necromantic spell called Wither Limb. And if you get hit with that same thing, your limb is withered and useless. So those are the only 2 things in our game that will take out limbs like that.
Now, for the purpose of metagaming, once you're unconscious, anything that you see after that point you don't actually see?
That's correct. Yeah, in fact, it's a good habit to close your eyes. You know, it's hard not to hear, but when you're unconscious, I'm glad you brought that up. You think about it. If you're unconscious, you wouldn't be able to see, hear, or interact or anything. So don't. I've seen some people where they're down and they're like, you know, hey Jim, help me, I'm down. You know, like, don't do that. That's cheating. You know, if you're down, pretend you're down. Role play that you're down. Be quiet. Close your eyes. Try not to listen to things. Okay, good question. Any other questions?
But she told me I can go up and ask if they're dead or
that is correct. With the Healing Arts ability.
You have to answer yes or no.
That's right. Both you have the Healing Arts, so they can walk up to you and say, Healing Arts, are you bleeding out? Are you dying? And that means, are you at -1 and about to die? Yes. Okay. First aid. You know, and then once you begin first aid, that will save them. So yes, you can ask a lot of questions.
How long does it count for first aid?
60. Okay. So we've got people who, how many can do armor smithing? 1, 2. So you guys can fix the armor, they can fix the health. Rogue?
Yep.
Rogue and rogue. Rogue and rogue.
What can we
okay.
do?
Sweet. Fighter?
Yes.
Fighter. Okay, swinging 3s?
Say again?
So are you, do you swing 3 normal? You have,
yes.
Okay, cool. And you too? Okay, keep in mind that's only in 1 hand. So you might want to pick the longer of the 2 weapons or whatever. You know, if you're ready, you might want to pick that one as your +1. The other one will be 2. And guys, we have longer weapons. If you guys want some longer ones, this is some short things. So there are some more behind me. If you didn't see anything on the table and you want a longer weapon, feel free to help yourself to some longer weapons back there.
The longer the weapon, the farther you can bat it.
Yeah,
and then
so
they can't hit you.
Yep.
It also means maybe the heavier, so I mean, like, I don't know, take a look at that one and see if you like that one better. A little better? Yeah, all right, cool, cool. Anybody want this little guy? No?
I'm good.
All right, cool. All right, any other questions? All right, cool. So what we're going to do at this point then, if you guys are all right, we will slowly transition into the in-game setting.